Before you dismiss the idea of sex addiction, consider these two stories. Author Susan Cheever on a journey to understand it, and this man who's asked us to conceal his identity. We'll call him Joe.
How did it all begin?
You know, when I was 14, I thought I invented masturbation. I thought it was great.
Joe says he's battled sex addiction for decades.
Worse and worse to where, you know, at my previous job, I was doing it 4 hours to...
You were looking at pornography at work?
Yeah.
He says it ruled his life and ruined his 2 marriages.
When I'm in the mind frame of wanting to do pornography, you don't think about anything else. You really want to... You're focused on getting that high, getting that adrenaline rush.
A rush that seems to be as powerful as it can be difficult to discuss.
People are embarrassed. There's a lot of shame around this subject.
To talk about sex, sexual
To talk
addiction.
about sex, and especially to talk about sexual addiction.
Susan Cheever is the daughter of the late writer John Cheever. Her latest book is part memoir, part research project. She does not call herself a sex addict, not exactly. But on the other hand, well, there was the sex.
Whenever there was a situation in which I was terrified or panicky, I would often find myself sleeping with somebody who appeared to have power over that situation. So,
for example, when her mother was diagnosed with cancer,
I needed to feel better. I needed to feel less helpless. And
you achieved that by?
I thought I was going to achieve, my mother's good health by sleeping with the oncologist and getting special treatment for her and knowledge for me. And indeed, she's still alive.
Cheever believes that it was not sex as much as the desire to fall in love over and over again that drove her through 3 marriages and multiple affairs.
What makes someone a sex addict?
Well, I think what makes anyone an addict of any kind, sex addict, alcoholic, cocaine addict, is really up to them. Addiction starts with a broken promise. In other words, when you say to yourself, I am not going to sleep with him, I am not going to see him tonight, and you find that you are doing it anyway, you've entered the land of addiction.
Are there, though, red flags that you look for?
Yes, there's very definite things that we look for. They're spending money they can't afford. They're putting marriage at risk. They're getting sexually transmitted diseases. There's things that are happening.
Carnes is the executive director of the Gentle Path program at the Pine Grove Center in Mississippi. Business there is brisk. It's been estimated that 3 to 5% of Americans engage in sexually compulsive behavior. We found that Carnes, who studied the subject for decades, still gets emotional when he considers its effects.
You know, the joke is, well, if sex is an addiction, it's the way I want to go. If you sat in my office and you listened to the tales of woe, sometimes in an evening I'll come home and, it's hard to even talk.
Why?
Because of just how hurting people are about the problems they have. And I think for people who are out there who think and dismiss it as something that's funny, they don't sit in our shoes.
But hold on a minute. Sex addiction doesn't even exist. Not if you consult this, the Bible of psychiatry. It's the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, the DSM. Sex addiction used to be in here, but 14 years ago when this was revised, it was taken out for a lack of scientific evidence.
I think it's a made-up diagnosis. I think it's a diagnosis that has a moralizing component to it.
New York psychiatrist Jack Drescher specializes in gender issues.
The problem that I have is like Flip Wilson used to say, the devil made me do it, and so my addiction made me do it is a way to not take into yourself your own wishes and desires.
Meaning?
Meaning that you might want to have more sex than the people around you think you should have.
Dr. Drescher believes that, for one thing, no one's ever decided what the proper amount of sex is. He also believes that so-called sex addiction is usually a mask covering deep-seated issues like alcoholism or drug use or abuse suffered in childhood. Susan Cheever acknowledges that addictions often come in sets.
Come on, sex addiction, just get over it.
Well, that's what many people think about addiction, period. So, even as people say, why can't you just drink less? Come on, sex addiction, just get over it. Just don't fall in love again. Just, they don't understand addiction.